Hello everyone, welcome to Leetcode 643, maximum average subarray 1. So here we're given an integer array nums consisting of n elements and an integer k. What an array means is pretty much just a list in Python, and now we have to find a contiguous subarray whose length is equal to k. What contiguous means is consecutive, right? So if we took this list of 1, 12 and 5, that would be contiguous. Meanwhile, if the list was 1 and then minus 5 and minus 6, that wouldn't be contiguous because they're not consecutive elements. So yeah, contiguous essentially just means adjacent. And we're given that the length is equal to k. Let's just look at the example which I used right here. K is given as 4 and we have to find the maximum average value. To do that, we're gonna have to take every subarray, every contiguous subarray whose length is equal to 4. So that would include this subarray of 4 elements, and then this subarray of 4 elements, and then this subarray of 4 elements. And we'd have to compare the averages of each of them and return the largest average. And what we can do is, instead of comparing the averages, we can just compare the sums, because sums divided by k would give the averages, and all of them are divided by the same number. Obviously, since we need to compare the sums of different subarrays, we're going to need a value to compare it to. And I'm just going to call this value max, because it will be the maximum sum that we've encountered so far. And when we start off with, the maximum sum that we've encountered will obviously just be the first sum of these elements, which is 2. And since we have a max value which we can keep comparing to, we'll need a value that we work with all the time, which is going to be cur, which stands for current. And assuming we've moved past the first iteration, we find that our sum is now for these 4 elements. Now if you notice, the elements 12, minus 5 and 6 all are still part of the sum, so that won't change in our sum. What will change, however, is that the 1 is removed, so it will be subtracted, and then the 50 is added. So if we had 2 here, what we would do is subtract 1 and then add 50, which would give us 51. And after we've sort of computed our cur value, we need to compare it to our max value. And considering that our max value or our current value is actually larger than our max value, we're going to be updating our max value to 51. So now we found that the sum of this is 51, and it is the maximum value that we've encountered so far. Next, let's move on to the next sum, which is for these elements. Now we use the same procedure. What we're going to do is assign the cur value of 51, subtract the value that was lost, in this case it's 12, and then add the new value, in this case it's 3. And this is going to come around to 42, and upon comparing it to 51, it is not greater than 51. At this point, we've iterated through every single subarray, contiguous subarray in the list nums, and we have a max value of 51, and we're going to return this value. Obviously we're going to make it the average, so 51 divided by 4, and what we can see from the solution is that this answer is correct. Now let's actually code up the solution, and since I already explained this, let's just start off by initializing the max sum as the sum of nums up till k, right? So in the example we had it up till the first 4 values, so we take the indexes 0, 1, 2 and 3, and we get the sum as 2. And let's also assign the current sum as the max sum, just because we need a starting value for that too. Now we're gonna have to iterate through through the list from the index I, or from the index k, till the total length of nums. And now we're gonna follow the process. So we're gonna need to add and subtract numbers. First of all, we're gonna need to add the index that comes after our list. So let's just look at the example here, right? And we have the first 4 indexes, or the indexes 0 through 3, and now we're gonna have to add the next index, which in this case would be k, right? because that's what we took over here at the starting. So we have to take the value of I, because I in this case is k, and as we move through, I is gonna move from being k to k plus 1, which in this case would be 3, and if our list was longer, it will move on and on and on. So since we've added the next number, we have to subtract the previous number. And what's interesting here is, since I is actually equal to k here, which is equal to index 4, and we need to subtract index 0, we notice that it's just I, or it's just I minus k, and here I is 4, k is 4, and so we'd subtract the 0th index. And in the next iteration, I would be equal to 5, and again we're going to subtract k from it, and k remains the same, it's still 4. So then we remove the first index, which is 12. So we can just put it as I minus k, and now we have our curve sum. So all we have to do is compare it to our max sum, and we're just gonna do this by taking the max between max sum and curve sum. So if curve sum is larger than max sum, we're gonna update it, but if our maximum sum is more than our current sum, it's gonna remain the same. And now finally, after all our iterations, we're just going to need to return the average, which obviously is max sum by k. And our code should be down here, except that there is a small error with Leetcode where it's going to take the integer value of k. So let's just replace it with float, and we should be good to go. Yeah, there we go. These are the two cases. Thank you so much for watching.